Welcome to another episode of the Healthy Living Resources Telecast. Today, we will discuss choices that we can make in our daily living to help lower our risk of cancer. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Rae Baker, your OSU Healthy Relationships Program Specialist. Welcome to another episode of the Healthy Living Resources Telecast. Today, we have with us Jenny Lobb, our Franklin County OSU Extension educator. Welcome, Jenny, and thank you for joining us for this important cancer prevention topic. Before we get started on this important topic, can you just take a moment to introduce yourself to our viewers and share a little bit about your role and what you do with OSU Extension?
My name is Jenny Lobb. I work as the Family and Consumer Sciences educator in Franklin County, and I am a registered dietitian by training. I also have my master's in public health, both from OSU, and I do most of my work in the areas of nutrition and health and wellness education.
Great, thank you. Well, let's go ahead and get started on this important topic. And April's a very important month, I hear, for this topic.
Yeah, April is Cancer Control Month, and it has been for a long time now. Every year since Franklin D. Roosevelt was in our presidential office, there has been a proclamation from the White House bringing attention to cancer prevention and how we can make healthy choices, healthy lifestyle choices to reduce our risk of cancer. Right now, cancer is actually the second leading cause of death in the United States, but about 40% of cancers are preventable by making healthy lifestyle choices. The American Institute of Cancer Research has published a list of some recommendations for lowering your risk of cancer. So that is what I'll be taking you through today. There are 10 cancer prevention recommendations that come from the American Institute on Cancer Research. And they are depicted in this infographic. The first is being a healthy weight. The second is being physically active. The third is eating a diet that's rich in whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. The fourth is limiting consumption of fast food and other processed foods. The fifth is limiting consumption of red and processed meat. The sixth is limiting consumption of sugary drinks. The seventh is limiting alcohol consumption. The eighth is choosing not to use supplements for cancer prevention. The ninth is specific for mothers. It is breastfeeding your baby if you can. And then the 10th is after a diagnosis, following these recommendations if you can. So we will look at each of these recommendations briefly. But before we do, I want to note that in addition to these 10 recommendations, choosing not to smoke and also practicing sun safety are also not in these top 10, but they are also healthy lifestyle choices that do help prevent cancer and reduce your risk for cancer. So we'll get started looking at this first recommendation of being a healthy weight. And maintaining a healthy weight is actually one of the most important things that we can do to protect ourselves from cancer. Aside from not smoking, staying at a healthy weight, according to the American Institute for Cancer Research, is the most important thing that we can do aside from not smoking to protect ourselves from cancer. There are at least 13 different types of cancer that are associated with excess body weight. So some ways that you can help to stay to help get to and maintain a healthy weight are to practice portion control, to eat a diet that's high in fiber to keep yourself full throughout the day, while also limiting foods that are high in sugar and fat because those contribute to excess calorie intake, and also being physically active. And that leads us right into the second recommendation. Being physically active is a recommendation in and of itself. And physical activity is great for many reasons that have to do with our physical health and our mental health. But one of those reasons is that physical activity helps us maintain a healthy body weight, and that can reduce risk for cancer. So the physical activity guidelines for Americans recommend that we get at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity each week. And moderate intensity is defined as activity that gets your heart pumping a little bit faster, it gets your breathing maybe a little bit heavier than at rest. If you think of exertion on a scale from 0 to 10, you're aiming for at least a 4 or a 5. So it doesn't have to be strenuous. It's just getting your body moving, getting your heart pumping a little more. And that 150 minutes can be broken down into 5 or 10-minute segments throughout the week. It all adds up. Anytime that you're able to move more and take those activity breaks, those stretch breaks, and sit less during the day, it is beneficial.
So Jenny, would that mean, like an example be taking a walk or walking your dog, or just even getting up to walk into the kitchen and back to the family room? Are those some good examples, or do you have any other examples?
Yeah, absolutely. So going out for a quick walk during the day, or if you are doing a leisure activity that's more sedentary, if you're sitting a while, then getting up and taking a stretch break is certainly helpful. Doing chores around the house, doing gardening. So we often don't think about gardening as physical activity. And so those minutes spent in the garden can add up quickly. It is activity. We're working different major muscle groups in our bodies, and it's getting our heart pumping a little bit. So it doesn't have to be strenuous. These daily activities, they all count. So the third recommendation is to eat a diet that's rich in whole grains, vegetables, fruits, and plant-based proteins like beans. The New American Plate that comes from the American Institute for Cancer Research is very similar to my plate that we often reference and teach from as nutrition educators, but it's simplified. So 2/3 of your plate, they recommend, should be plant-based foods, and then 1/3 or less is animal protein. So this doesn't mean that you have to go vegetarian, but it is a change in thinking. Oftentimes we think about what meat we're going to have for our meal, and then what vegetables or what sides might go with it. So this is flipping your thinking so that the meat is more the thing that's accompanying the vegetables. So plant-based just means putting plants first. It's more plant-forward type thinking. The fruits, the vegetables, the beans, the whole grains, all of those plant-based foods have fiber that helps keep you full, helps you maintain a healthy weight. They also have a lot of nutrients, antioxidants, phytochemicals that do help prevent cancer. That's what they do as nutrients, and a lot of other things as well. But eating a variety of those plant-based foods can promote health and prevent disease in general, and certainly help prevent cancer as one chronic disease. The fourth recommendation is limiting consumption of fast foods and processed foods. This one gets a little bit trickier just because there's no common definition for processed foods. And of course, food processing has benefits as well as consequences. Food processing can result in convenience products. So at present, the most commonly used classification system when it comes to food processing groups food into 4 categories from unprocessed or minimally processed to ultra processed. So unprocessed would be, for example, your raw fruits and vegetables. Minimally processed might be frozen vegetables. So the processing is minimal. When you start to get towards the other end of this spectrum, you're looking at added ingredients, added sugar, added sodium, and that's what we're really trying to avoid. So food processing in and of itself is not necessarily bad, but food processing can often be an indication that there has been things added to the food that could be harmful. So of course, we don't need the extra sugar and the extra salt in our diets. Those foods can also displace those plant-based foods that are recommended, those fruits and vegetables, whole grains, for example. So trying to limit the processed food and looking for the minimally processed as much as possible would be the recommendation here. The fifth one kind of builds on this. So it's limiting consumption of red meat as well as processed meat. So when we're talking about processed meat, this is meat that has been preserved by smoking, curing, salting. Examples would include items like hot dogs, deli meat, bacon, pepperoni, salami, for example. These foods are often very, very high in sodium and saturated fat. So the recommendation for cancer prevention is to avoid those foods, avoid those processed meats as much as possible. There has been research supporting a relationship between processed meat consumption and colon cancer specifically. In fact, I just saw an article very recently that despite overall declines in colon cancer, diagnosis has been shifting to diagnosis at a younger age and at a more advanced stage, meaning that young adults are now being diagnosed with advanced stage colon cancer.
And that is so fascinating, Jenny.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that? That just blew my mind. I had not heard that.
Yeah, so as a whole, colon cancer diagnosis has declined, but since about the mid 1990s, so in the last 20 years or so, cases of colon cancer among people under the age of 50 have increased substantially.
Wow, have actually increased. Okay.
Yeah, so researchers are just starting to notice this trend. They don't yet know what the cause is, but one of the thoughts is that it could have to do with processed meat consumption. So all the lunch meat that young people are eating with school lunches and so forth. So
that's what I was thinking was the school lunches and the process that you pack in the lunches and wow.
Right. Yeah. So in addition to avoiding the processed meat, the American Institute for Cancer Research does recommend limiting red meat consumption. So that would include beef, lamb, pork. They recommend limiting that to 12 to 18 ounces a week, which would be depending on the size, 2 to 4 servings of meat that are maybe 4 to 6 ounces. So trying to limit that. Again, it's an opportunity to not necessarily go vegetarian, but maybe go meatless now and then, have the meatless meals more often.
But a quick question, if I'm going to the store to get meat that's not processed, what does that look like? Because I mean, if I want to eat at least 12 to 18 ounces a week, what does processed meat look like so I can get that in my diet?
Yeah, so what they're really getting at here is avoiding the lunch meat, the bacon, the pepperoni and salami. If you're getting meat from just the refrigerator at the store, whether it's ground beef or chicken breast or pork chops, then those would be okay. It's the ones that are heavily salted or smoked or cured that are to be avoided. The next recommendation is limiting consumption of sugar sweetened beverages. So instead of drinking things with added sugars to them, like soda or energy drinks, sweetened coffee drinks, drinking mostly water. That could be plain water, infused water, seltzer water, or unsweetened drinks like unsweetened coffee or tea. And again, the rationale for this recommendation is that those sugary beverages contribute to weight gain, and they also displace other foods and beverages that could be more nutritious. Speaking of drinks, for cancer prevention, when it comes to alcohol, the recommendation is that it's best not to drink at all. Sometimes we hear conflicting information regarding alcohol and health. When we're talking about cancer specifically, alcohol use is actually the third leading modifiable factor that can increase your cancer risk. So first is cigarette smoking, second is excess body weight, third is alcohol consumption. Even less than a drink per day of any kind of alcohol can increase the risk of several common types of cancers. So for cancer prevention, choosing not to drink is best, but if you do choose to drink, the recommendation is what we hear in regards to health in general. No more than 1 drink a day for women or 2 for men, and a drink is defined as a standard 12-ounce beer, 5 ounces of wine, or a shot of hard liquor. The 8th recommendation is don't use supplements for cancer prevention. So there may be instances where you are using supplements, but as a dietitian, I like to remind people that supplements are meant to be supplemental to your diet. So it's best to strive to meet your nutrition needs through diet first. And then if you are using a supplement for any reason, make sure that you're discussing that with a healthcare provider to maximize the benefits and minimize the risk. So when it comes to cancer prevention, there is very limited and even inconsistent evidence on the benefit of supplement. And in fact, certain high-dose supplements could actually increase the risk of some cancers. So striving to meet your nutrient needs through your diet first is truly the best recommendation when it comes to nutrient needs and cancer prevention. The 9th recommendation, as I said, this one is exclusive for mothers. It is to breastfeed your baby if you can. because breastfeeding is good for both mom and baby. There's a lot of evidence suggesting that breastfeeding can reduce mom's risk of breast cancer. And at the same time, there's evidence that breastfed babies are less likely to carry excess weight even into adulthood. And recall that excess weight is the second modifiable factor when it comes to cancer prevention. So the World Health Organization recommends that mothers exclusively breastfeed for the first 6 months of life if possible, recognizing that that's not always possible, but it is the recommendation if it is. And then the 10th recommendation is after a cancer diagnosis, continuing to follow these recommendations to the extent possible for improved quality of life and reduced risk of recurrence. So, of course, anytime that you are diagnosed with a chronic condition, whether it be cancer or something else, you want to stay in communication with your healthcare team, your healthcare professionals, to find out what is best for you. But to the extent possible, continuing to live a healthy life can improve your overall quality of life even after a diagnosis. In addition to these recommendations, I do want to say a word about getting your recommended cancer screenings, because when cancer does happen, early detection, which often occurs through screening, can reduce the chance of significant harm or even death. So there are several common screening tests that are recommended based on age and sex. A few of the common ones include mammograms for breast cancer, usually starting around age 50, cervical cancer screenings for women as young as 21, and then colon cancer screening, colonoscopy, now recommended starting at age 45. So if a healthcare professional ever recommends a cancer screening, certainly worth the time to do it.
So Jenny, I have a question talking about this early detection through screening that you just brought up. There's been talk, or I've heard about this presidential moonshot effort. Could you speak to that, or what's that about?
Yeah, the current administration has a cancer moonshot effort. That's what they're calling it. And it's an effort to reduce the death rates from cancer by 50% in the next 25 years. And early detection through screening is a big part of this effort. There's also, funding associated with it for additional research to help reduce cancer. But screening, screening is important. It can really make a difference for somebody in terms of the length and the quality of their life if diagnosed.
So the goal is to reduce the cancer by 50% in the next 25 years. So Jenny, if someone does suspect they have cancer or knows that they have cancer, what are steps that they can take to help better their health?
Start with reaching out to your healthcare provider. Your primary care physician is probably a good starting point, and follow their advice. First and foremost, they are going to be tailoring, advice, recommendations, a care plan specifically for you. But know that these recommendations I've just gone through from the American Institute of Cancer Research are designed, for the general population to help improve health, overall health, So even with a cancer diagnosis, there is benefit to trying to follow these recommendations. So, do what is recommended specifically for you, but also keep these recommendations in mind and try to incorporate them to the extent possible. I think one of the most important is this whole idea of plant forward eating and just trying to eat more fruits and vegetables. We can all benefit from eating more fruits and vegetables, a colorful variety for many reasons. But those different colors of our fruits and vegetables provide our bodies with different nutrients. So they're going to do a lot of good if you're able to consume them.
So does the American Cancer Society have a list on their website available to follow or to look at, or of different fruits and vegetable choices or different dietary choices that they could use?
I don't know that there is a specific list, but all the information I have presented today is available online. I've included the links to learn more on each of these slides. And I like to try to just keep it simple by encouraging people to eat a rainbow. So trying to eat different colors, strive for variety. Know that fresh, frozen, canned, they can all count towards your fruit and vegetable servings. So however you choose to get those nutrients, aiming for variety is going to be a good thing to do. As we wrap up, I'll share my contact information. If folks viewing this have questions, you're certainly able to reach out to me.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Jenny. You've provided us with many everyday life choices that we can do to better our overall health and help lower our overall risk for cancer. So if you viewers have any questions for us, please do not hesitate to reach out. Our contact information is listed in the credits, and please feel free to contact your local county extension office to connect with all these great resources that we have to offer. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.